This is a switch. A switch is nothing fancy. It's a device that switches data from one interface to another. Part of the purpose of the switch is to connect end devices, in-network devices. An end device can be something like a computer, a laptop, a telephone. You'll have a hole here to plug it. Those holes, you call them ports, colloquially, or interfaces, or switch ports if you want to. But those things refer to those holes here. And there's a number for each one of them. 1, 2, 3. In the case of this one, it has 24. This is a brand new switch from Fortinet, right? I'm putting this so that it can participate in the Hacker Takes All event, where hackers are going to try to hack this network, right? So understand that the job of the switch is nothing fancy. It simply takes data from one interface, move it to the next. So if data is coming from my computer and it is destined to your computer, then it's going to leave where my computer is plugged in. And it is going to exit in the direction where your computer is. Your computer happens to be in some direction because you are across the internet from me. You're across the internet from me. It exits in whatever interface is connected to the internet. And from that point on, it follows the rest of the layer of the OSI model, right? So we understand what a switch is, and we understand what the purpose of a switch is. Now let's take a step back to the diagram that I mentioned to you at the beginning of this class. I'm Jerry Derival, world-class IT and cybersecurity professional. Look at this diagram here, right? You have switches here. Look at this, my friend. You have a switch here, right? You see this Cisco switch? What happens to this Cisco switch? It has a server connected to it. You see? The server connects to the switch, and the switch connects to a firewall, and the firewall itself connects to the internet. Okay? We're going to get into these things, but today we start interacting with our first switch, and I couldn't be more excited. But before we do that, I have to give you one more piece of advice. The switch has something called a MAC address table. The MAC address table, what is it? It is a table that tells you what the MAC address of each device that is connected to your network is. In the case of the switch that I just showed you, it had 24 ports. So 24 different devices can be connected to it. Because the job of the switch is to move the frame from one interface to another, it needs to know where to send that frame, right? So when the devices get connected for the first time to the switch doesn't know their names, but something happened where they meet one another. The device starts to communicate, and the switch starts to mark the MAC address of each device, because as the device communicates, it's got to communicate its MAC address, and the switch has to know the MAC address of the device where it's sending that communication. Now, the switch will then create a table, and that table is called the MAC address table. It is nothing fancy other than something that lists the interface where each MAC address lives. The MAC address is for the devices that connect to networks. If a device can connect to a network, it's got to have a MAC address, right? And as it communicates, the switch will have the job of listing the MAC addresses. Folks, let's jump right in. We're going to turn our first switch the first time. This is supposed to be the most hands-on class that you ever experience. So here's what I mean by that. This is how you interact with a switch. You remember that we said yesterday we had to install PuTTY. Now that everybody has PuTTY on their computer, if you didn't have PuTTY, I can give you a brief overview of how to do that. You Google. This is how you install PuTTY, right? Google, PuTTY, download. And I like to get it from here, right? This is going to redirect you to this, Google PuTTY. And oops, that's not where I like to get it. I like to get it from this. That's the same place. That's really the place I know. Okay, from here, your computer might be a 68-bit computer or a 32-bit, etc. I take what mine is. I download that stuff. Right? Show download. I have it here, and I want that. I'm going to install that as if I didn't have it before. And I think it's going to replace the one I have. Yeah, I'm going to replace the one I have. I'm removing it. Yes. Okay. I just removed the one PuTTY that I had before. Give it a second. Okay, done. That's over. No more PuTTY for me. Now I'm going to install my PuTTY. just so you can see that the first time, and you can rewatch this video if you want a cheat sheet. Install. Okay, that's a Windows computer. You can't do that on a Mac computer. What do you do on a Mac computer? You do this. Okay, finish. Now can I open Putty? Voila, Putty comes up here. Right, I can open my Putty. This is what Putty looks like when you open it. Right, this little square. For you who have the Mac computer, you do this. Secure CRT. Download. This is not free. Unlike Putty, this is not free. This is a paid software, but they allow you to try it. I think for 90 days or for 30 days or so. I agree to whatever they say. You read these things first, okay? Before you try to buy, try before you buy, etc. Right? Download Secure CRT, and they're gonna take you through the motions, and you give your information, give your credit card or whatever, and then you evaluate. Make sure you cancel before the time expires if you don't want to pay for it. Right? And make sure you understand how much this thing is gonna cost you, etc., etc. I'm not on the Mac here. I have a Mac, but I'm not on that Mac here, so I can't show you another option that I have. But I'll try to find a video on YouTube and share that with you. But folks, it's exciting time. We're going to log into a switch for the first time using Putty. And plenty of the things that we've been covering since yesterday are going to come to light. You're going to realize that you have made a big leap forward into the world of networking and cybersecurity. What do I do here, folks? IP addressing. That's what I need for me to go from my computer and into my switch. So what I do first here is that I type the IP address of my switch, 192.168.10.12. I know that that's the IP address that I assigned to my switch. And look what I did here. Port remains like that, 22. Connection type, SSH. That's all you need to know for now. There are others, but that's the most secure. Click open. You will receive this little message here. Say yes. And what you do next is nothing short of miraculous. You put your credentials just like you would do for a computer. Admin. And I put my password. This I will not tell you today. All right. That's for another day for me to tell you. So I got access to the switch. What do you see here, folks? This is the name of the switch, core. This name can be changed anytime you want. Right? It's nothing fancy. It simply reminds me what switch I'm on here. Before the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the MAC address table. Show MAC address table. This is a command. This is called the CLI, command line interface. And this is what I use to interact with the switch, to make the switch do what I want, or to ask the switch to print information that I want to see for me. I just want to see my MAC address table. I hit enter here, and there they are, all of my MAC addresses. These MAC addresses, they're static. That means they are stuck on the switch. They come with the switch because the switch is a device that can connect to a network. Each interface or each port on the switch will have a MAC address to represent the interface. Every place where every device that can connect to a network will have a MAC address to represent that entry point from this device to the network. Okay, that's very important for you to know. VLAN, we're going to cover that. MAC address, you see the MAC address, static, you see where it is. But more importantly, you want to see those that are not come with those that did not come with the switch. Look at this one, for instance. You see, it's on VLAN 1. This is the MAC address, but it also tells you what interface it's on, what interface this MAC address was learned on. And it told you as well that this float was learned dynamically. That means as a device communicated, the switch made note of the MAC address of that device, and it also made note of what interface that device communicated on. That way he knows, okay, if ever I have traffic to deliver to that device, I know where it is, and I'm going to send it in that same direction again. Okay? That way he doesn't have to learn on the fly. But if ever he doesn't know, do you remember that I told you that the last address of a subnet, the last IP address of a subnet is the broadcast address? But you understand that the IP is used at the layer 3. But now that you understand that, you've got to know that there's an equivalent for the MAC address, for the switch layer. There's an address that is the broadcast address. It's all F. If ever you see an address that is all F, you know that this is the broadcast address. Right? You see these, they're written in hexadecimal. Hexadecimal means that it has a combination of letters and numbers, right? Just like binary is only numbers. Hexadecimal is a type of numbering system, right? We're not going to learn that today. But if you see one that's F only, that means it's the broadcast address. If the switch doesn't know where to send the traffic, it's going to send it to that address. And all of the devices on that switch will hear it, so long as they're all on the same VLAN. Folks, without muddying the water, I am going to stop right here. I'm Jerry Derizal, world-class IT and cybersecurity professional.